with a semi going off the road and literally stopped, say, right up at the top of the bank there, all right? And we had just moved to that spot. We had just moved the tent earlier that day, and we were asleep. Got up the next morning because I needed to go and take my daughter to school, and there's people everywhere in this semi just right there. Had there not been briars, it would have probably just gone off and crushed us. We had a tree fall literally right next to us while we were asleep. I woke up to the thump, and the base of it was a foot from the tent. It flooded for New Year's in 2022, and that got about a foot and a half away from the tent. And again, we were sleeping, and a neighbor was screaming at us, and that's what got us up. For all I know, it could have been right next to the tent and was receding by the time we saw it. And then we got to endure all those windstorms that we had in January. That was probably one of the more terrifying things. You haven't lived till you've been in a 10 and 60 mile an hour wind. Trying to study, I did the last 3 years using the hotspot on my phone for my internet and, you know, doing school from the tent. Yeah, we have a spendy phone bill, but it's worth it. 4 days a week, I didn't have to go to class until the afternoon, you know, from 1:30 to 5:30. Fridays, I had an 8:30 to 12:30 class, and so that really sucked. After I got up, I would have to walk from camp to the bus stop, which is a good half hour or so walk, and then wait for the bus, take the bus into Ashland, and then go to class. On Fridays, you know, I would have to leave at like 6:30 to catch the bus to get there, you know, by 8, you know, for my 8:30 class, and then take the bus back home. Some of my professors would let me do Zoom, which was a lifesaver, especially after I hurt my knee the end of winter term. I ended up doing most of my last couple weeks via Zoom because I couldn't walk up the hills. Not only did I manage to do this going to school, but I maintained a 4-point for the last 4 years. You know, no easy, you know, thing to do at best, but definitely not homeless and definitely not, you know, doing something computer related.
It took quite a while before I became aware of Heather's situation. And it honestly wasn't until I was sitting in on some final projects in a class that Heather was participating in with one of our faculty members, Sam Hayes-Hicks. It was a theory and practice in digital media course. All students were charged with the idea of taking some sort of a real-world problem and finding a solution through technology and media to be able to help solve that situation. And Heather's approach was working on a scale model of a housing situation, an idea of rethinking housing and making housing a possibility through new technology. And through her discussions and her open presentation at that point, that was honestly the first time that I became aware of her unhoused status. You know, I think her work in the program stands on its own. I think she did great work through all the coursework and all of her projects. And I think she's been set up really well through her own initiative and taking advantage of what we have to offer in the classes. And then knowing on top of that, her experience and what she was going through to be able to make that happen adds an incredible level of depth to that experience, and a sense of, for me, a sense of awe of the level of commitment and focus and determination necessary to make that happen.
My professors at SOU believed in me. It's like no other experience I've ever really had. I'm just not used to anybody saying anything too positive, even though I've worked so hard. Never give up, and advocate for yourself. Because if you don't advocate for yourself, nobody else is going to. The thought of dying on the street terrifies me. And so I am doing everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen.